Hello again, it's Matt here, and we are going to talk about gates in this video. Normally I use gates on almost all of the drum channels, and that's because there's a lot of bleed that goes on between the microphones, and we want to try to eliminate it to sound a little bit more natural and a lot less populated, a lot less muddy. So to bring up our gate, all we do is select the channel. Our channel strip comes up. If we're on another screen, all we're going to do is select one of our dynamic plugins. In particular, here we have the gate, and you can see right off the bat that there's a couple of things that we're going to want to adjust. The first knob is the threshold. What that is going to determine at what point the volume is going to allow the gate to open, and when it goes below a certain volume, that gate is going to close, or that gate is going to close back again. So if we're listening to it, we're going to put the threshold all the way up, and we're going to start to bring it down as we can start to hear it. So that gate is opening nicely over a certain threshold. The next thing we're going to look at is range. When a gate is open, it is all the way open. When it is closed, unless there's a range. The range determines how loud the audio is when the gate is closed. So if we bring the range up, we're going to see that the gate is staying open all the time. But as we bring that range down, the difference between the volume levels is getting more and more drastic. We want the snare to sound really natural, but just more percussive. So bringing that range down all the way will sound a little bit too harsh and a lot less natural. So somewhere in the middle is going to sound okay. The next thing is attack. Attack determines how quickly you want the gate to open after the audio is coming through. Right now, the attack is appropriate at 1 millisecond, which is about as quick as it can happen. But if I start to make it a little bit later, it's actually going to miss all the percussive nature of the snare and only let through the ring. That's just going to sound bad and really unnatural, so we're going to bring it back up to 1 millisecond. The release time that's right next to it actually determines how quickly the gate closes. You don't want it to close really fast because it's going to sound really snappy, and you don't want it to close really slow because a lot of other things are going to get into that channel before it closes out. So if we're trying to get rid of a lot of the cymbals, there's going to be too many cymbals in the snare microphone for too long. In particular, it sounds pretty okay at 153 milliseconds, but I'm going to show you what it sounds like when we bring the release out a lot. So you can start to hear how a lot of that stuff is still in there and the gate's almost doing nothing. The hold right next to the release is how long the gate stays completely open before it starts the release process. So if I bring the hold down, that gate is going to stay open a lot shorter. And if I bring the hold up, the gate's going to stay open for a lot longer. I think it sounds okay at 70, so I'm going to leave it there. One of the more difficult things to understand here is the key-in filters. So what a key-in filter is a determination of when the gate is going to open based on a very specific frequency. In the snare, since we're trying to get all the kick drum out of the microphone, we're trying to get a lot of the cymbal out of the microphone, we're going to want to bring in those high pass and low pass filters that we talked about in the EQ video just to get only what the snare is. So if I turn the volume back up and I hit this listen button right here and I have my headphones on in front of house, I'm going to want to listen to the microphone and bring that low pass way down to get all the high end out. So I'm starting to get rid of all those cymbals. So now it sounds super mid-rangey, the snare sounds terrible, but what's important here is just a key-in filter. So it's only determining at what point the gate is opening. So we just need that snare oomph. Alright, if we bring up the high pass filter, we're going to get a little bit of the kick out there. I'm going to bring it down even more so it's more specific. That sounds about good. It's only letting the gate open during these frequencies, and that sounds okay. We're going to hit the listen button again, and we're going to hear that the snare is basically sounding okay. That's about it for our gates video, so thank you for listening and happy mixing.